This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Hey everybody, this is Freddie Cohen of ESPN Radio. When I'm not talking about breaking news or breaking news on ESPN Radio, I'm always a fan and listen to the Detroit Sports Podcast, and so should you.
Thank you for downloading another episode on the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. You're listening to Doc and Jock. I am the Doc, John Macaroon. Joining me, my cousin, Adam, the Jock Strozinski. What's up, cuz?
Ariana Grande, yes or no?
Ooh, no, not really. Not a fan.
What? Like, I don't mind her music. Like, she has that one song, Side to Side or whatever. I don't even know what the name of the song is. I just think she's hot. I totally would, in a heartbeat.
What got you thinking about Ariana Grande to start this podcast?
I was driving in and I was listening to it and I was like, yeah, I don't know. Sometimes like music just triggers random thoughts in my head, and sometimes I get a little nostalgic about things. And I want to be honest with you, 18 to 25, some of the greatest years of my life. I was a total train wreck in real life. I was a complete disaster, but I had a really, really, really good time. And sometimes when I hear like certain pop songs or certain music, it just kind of reminds me of what it was like to be at the club, either like on a random like Thursday night or a random Friday night or a random Saturday night or a Sunday, because basically my club life was Thursday through Sunday. We would usually take Monday off, and then we'd pop back in on a Tuesday, take a Wednesday off, and then you're right back at it again. So it was like 5 days out the week I was clubbing. I was a mess, man. I was a total and utter disaster as a youngster. And sometimes I hear songs on the radio like that song. It just makes me think of, I don't know, scheming on broads at the club. That's all.
Oh,
so
my gosh.
I don't know. And I'm just like, she's really hot. Like I sit there and when I'm at the gym, they'll play her music videos. And like all of a sudden I'll be like riding on a bike or I'll be running on the treadmill. And I'm kind of entranced by just whatever she's doing on the screen. And then, I finish my run up and I go lift weights. But it's just kind of what it is, I don't know. I just figured I'd ask you about it because on my way in, I was rocking out to it. And when I say rocking out to it, I mean rocking out to it.
Very good.
There's a big forearm pump there with a vein running through it, so you get the deal.
We got a stacked podcast, but before we get to all the topics, and we'll talk about what we're going to do a little bit later here, it's about February 2nd. By now, you've all watched Signing with the Stars. You've looked at your team's favorite recruits. You've seen what they've done to improve the squads. I'm a Michigan State guy. You're a Michigan guy. And this year, very, very interesting stuff going on, especially on the side of the Wolverines. Michigan State, not so much, really kind of going for guys that they obviously want to build up. Michigan really, definitely when people were talking last year about Jim Harbaugh stepping foot in the SEC, doing all the satellite camps, look what happens because of it. You land a five-star guy that was a guy that was being recruited by Alabama in five-star, recruit Aubrey Solomon. He now comes to Michigan, and many people are like, my goodness, look what Jim Harbaugh's building. Now in year 3, he's starting to get a foothold of not only guys that are solid here in Michigan, but nationally as well. And when you look at it from afar, you go, oh my goodness, if he can coach them up, if the new additions on the coaching staff can at least recreate what was done by the previous staffs, because, when you got a guy like Jim Harbaugh, you're going to have coaches leave. If they can recreate, some of the magic, my goodness, they're going to be looking to have a solid 2017, 2018 year.
Not just pulling the five-star guys. We were watching it together, and Michigan was going through announcing some of these guys along the offensive line, and they're all gargantuan men, like 6'6", 6'7", pushing close to 300 pounds. These are big dudes that are freshmen. They're going to be coming in as freshmen, and they're still huge. So they're going to fill out even more by the time they graduate, or if they're lucky enough to maybe get drafted to the pros. These guys are going to be mammoths, like 6'6", 6'7", probably closer to 350, almost 400-pound dudes that are going to be anchoring that offensive line. It's totally impressive what Jim Harbaugh has been able to come in and do. And you got to remember, when Rich Rod was here, Rich Rod liked the smaller, faster offensive linemen that got bullied around by guys like Ohio State and Michigan State. Then Brady Hoke came in, and he recruited some of the same caliber of guys that Jim Harbaugh did, but to a much lesser extent. And then Jim Harbaugh comes in, and like you said, nabbing 5-star recruits that Alabama's in on. And that's kind of the standard bearer if you're looking at recruiting classes. It's Alabama and Ohio State. Those are the two that you want to kind of compete with. And Jim Harbaugh is in on all those guys. What's a little bit interesting to me is kind of the way Michigan State has gone about recruiting. It's a little bit different than what it used to be. Michigan State was very staunch in, we recruit you, you say yes, you're with us, none of this flippity-floppity stuff. And if, you know what, you're not on our radar, you're on somebody else's radar, we're not going to come and try to poach you and try to get you to flip. Well, in recent weeks, they've sat there and they've flipped guys that were supposed to be going to schools like Georgia Southern, Bowling Green, just to name a few. And that's a little bit interesting to me. Michigan State has always recruited roughly 3-star caliber players, and Mark D'Antonio has done an incredible job coaching those guys up, getting them into the NFL. A prime example, one that I like to harken back to because I believe he's one of the, if not the best running back in all of the National Football League, Le'Veon Bell. I mean, incredible. He came into college with hardly any hype. He was a 3-star guy. Michigan State was one of the only big schools to recruit him, goes to Michigan State, does a lot of good things there, then goes to Pittsburgh, and guy's an absolute beast, absolute stud. So it's not out of the realm for Michigan State to kind of stay in that 3-star range, but to go ahead and start flipping guys or going after guys that these guys have already given their verbal commitments to other schools, like a Bowling Green, which is a MAC level school, or a Georgia Southern, which, I mean, come on, let's be honest, it's Georgia Southern. So it's just interesting the way Michigan State's going now. Do you feel maybe they're kind of sensing some of that pressure because Jim Harbaugh is doing all these different things, the satellite camps, the signing with the stars, being able to be in contention for 5-star recruits, the same guys that Alabama and Ohio State are in on?
The challenge at Michigan State obviously now is that there's 2 great head coaches. Now you got to look at also too what PJ Fleck's going to do out there in Minnesota. So it's kind of one of those things where there's obviously a certain level of talent that you can go out there and get. And what you know the philosophy for Michigan State has been is maybe not to get the 4- and 5-star guys, but to try to go out there and get guys that fit the system, and the coaching staff will have the great opportunity to build them up. Now, many people are looking at, and the question that I've asked people is, well, after last year's 3-9, doesn't that notion kind of lose its luster and lose its value because of the fact that you went 3-9 last year? And that's just really the worst possible time because look what's going on now. You have all the names going to Michigan. I believe they got at least the top 6 guys in Michigan all went to Michigan. And look at the news. Just as we started recording, just as I hit the button, what news came across the wire here on my phone? 3-star defensive end Winter that was going to sign with Michigan State gets arrested on Monday. What's up with that? You can't even wait 3 days to get, to stay out of trouble? That's the kind of news. And it's just one of those things where right now, when you say who wins the press conference, who gets the most PR, who's doing the absolute best marketing, I mean, Jim Harbaugh is a genius. The video of the recruit where they're in the pool and the recruit signed verbally, give him a handshake. Boom, they're jumping in. You got your coach there who's making $1 million and Pep Hamilton from the NFL. What a great way to introduce him to your social media. Boom, you get a verbal handshake, jump in the pool. It's fun, it's fresh, and that's what Jim Harbaugh's about, and I respect that greatly, but Mark D'Antonio, a little bit less pizzazz, and his job is going to be to take the talent that he's got and work them in order to work the system and get back. But there's still talent there. The recruiting class from 2016 and 2015 have played a little bit more because of some injuries, and so you got to see how they're going to develop now. But the most important thing in any situation is, many people do get involved in recruiting, and we've kind of started to watch it a little bit more in the last couple years, but it always goes down to how do they progress? Because Brady Hoke was able to win the press conference each and every year too, and Jim Harbaugh was able to take his guys for the most part in his early couple years and have success. But how do they develop when the pressure's hot? What happens when it's time for them to deliver? Yes, stars in front of your name are great. But like in anything else, when you have to hit the books, when you have the pressure of expectations, how do you handle it? And Michigan State is one of those, universities that in the past has kind of taken lesser guys and had some success.
And with these recruiting classes this year, these guys are going to be expected to step in and fill
handle
big
business,
shoes
yeah.
Because, look, especially on Michigan's side, they have 4 guys returning, I believe, on the offensive side of the ball, and they've got 1 guy returning on the defensive side of the ball. So there's been a lot of players that are either going on to that next phase in their career or they're just moving on, period. And you've got holes to fill all over both sides of the ball now. So these recruits are expected to step in and make huge contributions, whereas before there might have been a little bit of a pecking order, if you will, kind of just get in the line, and if you can beat a guy out for that position, cool, you'll get the nod. But now, these young guys that are coming in, these 4, 5, even 3-star guys, they're going to be leaned on heavily to sit there and contribute and make an immediate impact on both sides of the ball for both of these teams.
Michigan not only has to worry about nationally like Alabama and things like that, you got to worry about Ohio State. And Ohio State had a young, superior class that had did some things, and they were able to get to the college football playoff, and those guys are just going to get better, and they're going to retool as well. So really, Michigan's not really too concerned with Michigan State. They got to worry about, did our team improve? Did we get better? Did we inch closer to Ohio State? Or did we just, stay on pace? Because Ohio State, they're just reloading. They're young. They're fresh. And Urban Meyer is one of the elite coaches. So I'm a more wait-and-see guy. I want to see what happens on the field. I'm not too enamored with all the signing with the stars. It's cool. It provides us entertainment while we're recording this podcast. But for me, I'm not too enthralled in all that stuff. But for the kids, I know they love it. The Twitter, the videos, the hype videos, all the pictures that we've seen, the HD graphics that these kids are sitting with their hats and their university behind them. It's pretty neat what these kids are up to. And in the next 5 years, it's only going to get, with social media, it's only going to get much more involved. And it's all about marketing and hype and things like that around early February. But for me, I'm heavily invested from September until January. Show me what's going on. And last year, Michigan State took a hit. But in the future, I do believe if they get the quarterback right, if they can figure out how to unite as a coaching staff, they're going to be just fine. I mean, they're going to be fine. I'm not too worried. But Michigan, they're full steam ahead. And if you're a Michigan fan, you have all the reasons, all the press, all the marketing, all the glitz and glamour on your side. So it's really awesome to be a Michigan fan right now.
I think Michigan State next year, with the struggles they had this year, they'll be much better off in 2017 as they march towards 2018. As far as Michigan goes, you've had a lot of guys that are leaving your program and are either taking that next step in the NFL or they're going off to follow their dreams in their other careers. It's going to be a struggle next season. That being said, I think Jim Harbaugh will do a good enough job coaching the players up, but I'm not expecting another 10-win season. I'm expecting them to take a little bit of a hit, maybe take a step back, and that might be the time where, Michigan and Michigan State kind of trade blows back and forth here, where, Michigan State's able to win one year, Michigan's able to win the next. Michigan State comes back and pile drives Michigan, and then the following year, Michigan gets its revenge for the previous year. So I'm expecting Michigan to maybe take a step back in 2017. I'm not expecting it to be a dreadful season, but they've lost so many key components on both sides of the ball. It's going to be hard to rebound and continue with that consistency of those 10-win seasons and be first, second, or third in the Big Ten. And I think they'll compete for second and third. I just don't think they're going to have enough power to sit there and maybe overpower the likes of an Ohio State.
Yeah, based upon what I'm seeing here in the recruiting, Michigan has a solid chance to defend their third-place championship that they've won now back-to-back. I think they're in good shape.
You're such a smug.
What I see here,
Richard.
I see in the trophy case that Michigan has a back-to-back third-place division championship going on, dude. Great stuff. You have a lot to be excited about. Back-to-back third place.
Richard.
You know I'd bring that up.
I know. I was kind of waiting for it, but you did a very good job working that in. It was all nonchalant, straight-faced, and there you go. Slipping in like a quick jab to the ribs. Thanks.
All right, on this podcast, definitely coming up next, we're going to talk about the Super Bowl. Great game Sunday. I think it has all the potential to live up to the hype. Super Bowl 51 with the Patriots and the Falcons. If we look at the storylines correctly and we look at the stats and we look at what's going on, it is shaping up to be one of the all-time classics. A little later on, we'll talk about the Red Wings. I tuned in Tuesday after the All-Star break versus New Jersey. It was absolutely embarrassing on a lot of fronts, and we'll get to it because it's looking more and more like right now that this Red Wing team is not going to make the postseason and the streak is going to end. But more importantly, the style of play, what I saw was absolutely devastating, and we'll talk about it later. And
I might have a surprising take on those Red Wings, just to cut you off there for a second. So
no worries.
Stick around for that.
And then the end of the podcast, you and I both saw the Royal Rumble. The video you posted was epic. I'm glad you found it because it encapsulated what I did, and I'll share with you and the masses here what I did when number 30 hit in the Royal Rumble. We'll talk about it, and we'll talk about what's happened in the week that was in the WWE because a lot of people have talked about it. But I think Monday potentially redeemed themselves. I'm interested to get your take on what's been going on with wrestling, because I know we're wrestling fans, and around the time of the Royal Rumble, it's now the lead up to WrestleMania. We got to talk about some wrestling, and we'll do that at the end of the podcast. But first things first, most important story of the day, most important thing that everybody's talking about is the Super Bowl. And for me, my first thought is not a lot of real storylines. These are two professional teams. You know that people are looking. And I find it disappointing that I think the biggest thing that people are looking for is, should the Patriots win, they want to see the drama. They want to see Tom Brady standing there next to Roger Goodell, having the trophy handed to him. I guess people are like that. They want to see the drama. But for me, there is no chance in hell Tom Brady is going to go out there and throw a dig at Roger Goodell in front of everybody. He'll keep his head up. He'll just, do something classy. But that's what people want to see. And I know that storyline is out there. But for me, I just see right now two great football teams, highly ranked both on offense and defense, and who's going to match wits better. This is truly a game of who's going to execute late in the game on Sunday. But just the initial storylines this week, nothing really has come out. They're trying to keep everything tight-lipped. Two professional teams, two quarterbacks that are really at the top of their game, and it's shaping up to be a game that many people are hoping lives up to the hype.
Yeah, absolutely. This is going to be probably one of the more entertaining, probably one of the more high-scoring, if everything kind of plays out the way everybody's expecting, Super Bowls.
But do you remember what Josh told us when he came? A lot of games this year, with the expectation of a lot of scoring, might be a defensive game. With the spread that you told me here and with the over-under, I'm looking like, oh my goodness, could we get a game like 13-10 in the Super Bowl? Because a lot of people are hyping up this game, and I don't want to see a game low scoring. Not this game, because the entire postseason really just hasn't been that good and enjoyable outside of one or two games. Many people, I think, need this game to be good on Sunday.
Well, if you look at the way the last couple games throughout the playoffs have been, most of them have been duds. You can kind of check out by halftime. But yeah, to start the week, it opened the over-under opened up at 59 points. So they're expecting a shootout here. It has moved a little bit. Right now, as we speak, it's at 58. But again, you've got the number 1 ranked offense in Atlanta, and you've got the number 2 ranked offense in New England. On top of that, Atlanta puts up over 33 points a game, while New England puts up 27 points a game. So, right there, you're already at, 60 points? So that puts you at your over-under. You're going to want to take the over in that case. However, you're right. This may become a defensive struggle. And I say it may become a defensive struggle because of this brand new stat that's out there. And you guys know I'm a total stat geek, but I'm going to give you a little background on what DVOA is. This is a huge football stat that tells a lot about a team. And DVOA stands for Defensive Adjusted Value Over Average. So it breaks down every single NFL play and compares a team's performance to a league's baseline based on situations in order to determine the value of an overall average. That being said, it's a very informative stat because it tells you how well a team plays given a particular situation. Look, you can sit there and if you're in a 3rd and 15, you can give up 10 yards. That's not going to hurt you. Now, with your defensive stats, it may come back and bite you in the butt, and it may drop you down 2 or 3 rankings in the overall scheme of things. But with DVOA, you giving up 10 yards doesn't hurt you because you have a 15-yard cushion before you're going to give up a first down. So DVOA is an incredible stat that kind of tells you how teams play. And that being said, New England is the number 1 team in DVOA, while Atlanta is the number 3 team. So you've got 2 teams here that take situational football to that next level, and they play it to the extreme. And this could become a low-scoring game. I don't believe it will be, because I think you've got too much offensive firepower on Atlanta's side of the ball, and I think you've got the greatest quarterback of all time on New England's side of the ball. So I think they're going to put points up. If I had to sit there and take whether it be the over or the under, I'm probably going to push for the over. I'm expecting this game to go over. I'm expecting it to be over 60 points. And when I was sitting there trying to kind of break down which team would have the better shot to win this game and how would you stop this team if you were on the other side of the ball, and I'm just looking at Atlanta's roster, and I'm like, man, they've got this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy. Matt Ryan's playing out of his mind right now. They've got so many different offensive weapons. If you take away one, it just opens up another. And if you take away 2, it opens up 2 more. So what are you going to do? How are you going to stop them? I think Matt Patricia and Bill Belichick have their hands full this week with trying to devise a scheme to sit there and slow down Atlanta and that high-powered offense. That being said, I think New England can put points up too. I mean, we've seen them do it with no backs. We've seen them do it with three backs. We've seen them do it with little-known wide receivers like a Hogan. Wes Welker basically made his name in New England. A Julian Edelman who was a quarterback who ends up getting drafted to New England, goes on and plays defensive back. From there, he positions to a wide receiver and a special teams threat. So, I mean, New England can do it with all sorts of guys. I mean, a guy like Kyle Van Noy, who was basically sitting on his couch with the Lions, ends up going over to New England, and next thing you know, he's a defensive stud. So, this is going to be an incredible, incredible matchup.
And I think two high-level coaches. You got to remember, Dan Quinn now has been in the Super Bowl before, but albeit with Seattle. Now he's got an opportunity to do some things with the Atlanta Falcons. You know Belichick's going to have everything in order, and so it's going to be a chess matchup in terms of what's going to be done, who's going to be doubled, which player is going to be limited from Atlanta. And I'm really interested to see if Bill Belichick knows and checks into the stats regarding what happens when defenses actually double Julio Jones, because what happens is running backs Devontae Freeman and Tevin Coleman then can be just boom, given the ball, given the rock, and there's an opportunity for Atlanta maybe to win the game via the running game. But Matt Ryan, solid quarterback. I'm interested to see how he handles the big game pressure, because Tom Brady, cool as a cucumber, probably going to play a very solid game. But if it's not Julio Jones, because everybody expects Julio Jones to be doubled, that's probably the strategy I would go with. Take him out of the game. Make a guy like a Mohamed Sanu beat you. Make the running backs beat you. Make other unsung heroes beat you, and then you go from there. But do you think in this game, who has the better performance, the better stats? Matt Ryan, Tom Brady? Who do you think is going to be the quarterback with the better stats and the better performance? Because by all accounts, the quarterback that plays better is probably going to be, on the team that wins the game.
I'll do a little bit of foreshadowing here and read as much as you want into it, and I'll come back around later on in this segment and kind of wrap it up and put a bow on it. But I think Tom Brady will, and I just think there is too much of a defensive genius on the New England side of the ball between Belichick and Matt Patricia. I mean, you've got to realize they're giving up the lowest point total of any team in the NFL right now. They have the number one ranked defense in points per game at just over 15. So nobody is scoring on these guys. Absolutely nobody. I think they gave up 30 points one time this entire season. So I just think there is too much brain power and too much scheme on the New England side of the ball for Matt Ryan to have that great of a game. And I think you're totally wrong, and I think you're a little bit off base with the doubling of Julio Jones. And like I said, I will foreshadow it now, and I will wrap it up and put a bow on it later on and explain to you why I think you're a little bit off there. What I want to know is, which team will this Super Bowl mean more for? Will it be the Falcons, who are looking for their franchise first, or will it be New England, who's looking to add one for the thumb? I mean, these are two franchises that are both well-deserving of it. You almost hate to see one team have to lose. But if there's one team that this Super Bowl is going to mean the absolute most for, who do you think it is?
I would go with the Atlanta Falcons. Listen, New England's been there before. New England's lost a couple Super Bowls to Eli Manning. So they've experienced wins and losses. And next year they'll be the odds-on favorite as long as Brady and Belichick are together. Look at the surrounding cast. You got Kyle Van Noy. You got Chris Hogan. You got, LeGarrette Blount. You got guys that are basically put together on the scrap heap, and they're able to do it because it's a system. It's a well-run organization. They'll be back next year. And look at, the situation and the ease of which the New England Patriots can make the postseason, because nobody has shown any balls enough to step up in that division. So New England basically almost gets a bye into the postseason because of their division. But I do believe it means a lot more to the Atlanta Falcons, because you got Matt Ryan, you got a guy that was much maligned. Many people were starting to question when they had the 8-8 season. If you recall, back in 2015, they got out to a 5-0 start, and all of a sudden people were like, okay, maybe this is the guy that can take that step. They finished the year 8-8, and many people were really questioning, oh, is this guy going to take that next step? I really believe Matt Ryan is on the cusp of becoming elite. Remember, only 30 years old, 1 year older than Matthew Stafford. It's very important for a guy like that in his career to take that next step in the biggest game. And he's obviously, in the 2016 season, had a super solid year. Set a record, threw touchdown passes to 13 different dudes you got arguably the best player on the field in Julio Jones. You got 2 running backs that can handle their business. You got a smart quarterback, and you got a defense that can do some things as well. So it would be a major missed opportunity if Atlanta goes into this game and doesn't probably come away with the victory. For me, I'm torn because the stats kind of favor, and the team with the better players favors Atlanta, but the edge, I believe, goes inevitably to the New England Patriots because they got the smartest brain in the organization and Bill Belichick. So it's going to be, I really feel like it's going to be a close game, and it might come down to who has the most turnovers. But in terms of what organization really needs this, I really believe it's the Falcons because they've had such a tumultuous situation in their history with Michael Vick, with the ups and downs. They've had success in the past, but followed by controversy. This is a situation where this team can not only do some things this year, but is likely to be around for the next couple of years.
All great points, but you're wrong. Look, if New England wins this, it'll be the 5th championship in 15 years for this team. On top of that, you have to remember the way that New England started the season off. They lost arguably their best player, their most important player, their quarterback. He was suspended for 4 games, whether you believe wrongfully or rightfully by Roger Goodell. All right, in the way that played out after last year's Super Bowl, and it was just in the media all the way up until spring training, or all the way up until OTAs for New England. It was just like a cloud hovering over the entire franchise. On top of that, if Bill Belichick wins this Super Bowl, he will be the only coach to have won 5 Super Bowl rings. Right now, he is tied with Chuck Noll for 4. On top of that, Tom Brady, the most important player, the guy who is the bee's knees for the Pats, all right, Tom Brady will become only the 2nd player in NFL history to win 5 Super Bowls, and he will be the only player to have done it with 1 team. The other player was Charles Haley, who won them with San Francisco and Dallas in the 90s. Plus, you get to put all that Deflategate nonsense to rest because, look, if New England wins this, you can't argue that, a football that has a little bit less PSI was the almighty reason why they won those games. It doesn't matter. They just came out and proved it to you. On top of that, I think Tom Brady's stats this season have proved to you that he is the real deal, Evander Holyfield. And if they do win, this prolongs the Patriots dynasty, and you get that awkward moment between Goodell, Robert Kraft, Tom Brady, and Bill Belichick. And look, you know how I feel about Roger Goodell. I absolutely hate the man. I think he is basically the devil parading around in a sheep's clothing. I don't like him. I think he's done awful things with the NFL. I think he puts them in bad spots, and I think he keeps their name out there. And look, they say bad publicity is always good publicity. No, I don't buy that at all. I really don't. He sits there and he takes a one-day story, turns it into a week-long story where we do nothing but talk about how the Super Bowl is doing things or how the NFL is doing things, and you sit there and you totally overshadowed last year's Super Bowl. So I totally want New England to sit there and put the bow on this season and rub it in Goodell's face, and I think that's why one of the reasons why it's more important if New England wins it.
Patriots with quarterback Tom Brady, 4-0 versus the Falcons all time. Patriots have the edge 7-6. But in this matchup, I really believe there is a strong psychological edge for the New England Patriots. They are living and breathing this whole Deflategate story. I really believe that's carried them through the entire season. When you look at what Tom Brady's been able to do, what the talk has been, they really want to win one for Tom Brady to rub it in the NFL's face and also to prove that, hey, without the talk of deflated footballs, we're a solid football team. Many people try, when they look at New England and their vast success, they try to diminish it by saying, hey, they're a bunch of cheaters. Tom Brady cheated by deflating footballs. So he just wants to go out there and prove that, hey.
Spygate.
He wants to prove that, hey, I'm the guy with 5 Super Bowls. That would put him ahead of everybody. 5 Super Bowls. And I really believe that is a motivating factor. And it's going to be one that is going to probably carry the New England Patriots throughout this game. But I do believe, and I disagree, I just think that New England's going to be there. Tom Brady's legacy, now all we're doing is just adding on to it if they do, if they win the Super Bowl. He's great. Everybody respects him. I would even consider maybe resting him the first 4 games next year so that he can actually play to 45, 46 years old. Hell, you got Garofalo back there. You can go 2-2, 3-1 with them. You don't need Tom Brady. It's an organization, the New England Patriots, that's going to be around for the next 3 to 5 years as long as Belichick and Brady are there. So Atlanta, you don't get that many opportunities for them to get to the Super Bowl because the NFC is a little bit tight. And it's one of those things where Atlanta is going to go out there and try to prove that, hey, they belong on the big stage because they've kind of had a steady build. It's important to them. It's important to the organization with Matt Ryan to get off the schneid and win the Super Bowl. You never know how many chances you're going to get. With New England, I would say in the next 3 years, they'll probably make one, maybe even two more appearances because you got Tom Brady, you got the best coach in all of football.
You make a lot of good points there, but look, I understand what you're saying. I think the edge does go to New England because they've been here before. They've been here time and time again. If there's a coach who knows how to get the most out of his players and how to structure this crazy week, actually this crazy 2 weeks, because that 1 week off, it kind of messes with a lot of teams who are first timers because what do we do with all this time that we have? It's not as structured. It's not as rigid. And players live off of that structure and that rigidness of their schedule. You know, you wake up at this time, you go to practice at this time. From here, you go meet with this coach. From here, you go lift weights. From here, you go home. You're in bed by this time and you hit repeat and you do it all over again. Look, with that week off, it kind of messes some players up. On top of that, when coaches and players go to the Super Bowl, a lot of times coaches like to give their players a little bit of time to really sit back and enjoy this because you might not be able to get this experience again. Bill Belichick doesn't do that. Hey, guys, this is a business trip. Treat it like it's business. You show up, you go to work. All right? We're doing this, and this. Nothing changes. Everything is the same every single day, every single week. So I think you're right that the overall edge goes to New England, and I think that the Falcons are a team that has done it right. The majority of this team is built through the draft. A lot of these guys are their own. They're homegrown guys that are making big plays and that are the superstars of this team. But I just think the overall edge for a team that can sit there and go and pick through the scrap heap of the NFL and pick up a guy that one team totally discards and then turn them into a Pro Bowl type player, the nod has to go to New England. And I think in the end, New England gets one for the thumb, and that's what's most important. Whether you believe that there may be some cheating going on. Did you hear about this story with the Falcons offensive coordinator Kyle Shanahan losing his playbook on Monday during that mass media session? Turns out a San Francisco Examiner reporter picked up his backpack thinking that it was his. He mistook it. And hours later, after Kyle Shanahan basically totally lost his mind and freaked out, ended up getting it returned to him, which he breathed a huge sigh of relief. But instantly, when you hear that story, doesn't your mind maybe go to the place where, like, did the Patriots have something to do with that? Because mine did. Mine sure did. I was like, did the Patriots maybe, a little some?
Listen, the Patriots,
I put nothing by. Hey, I put nothing by Bill Belichick.
You know the Patriots are going to cheat, but I don't think they're going to get caught in this Super Bowl. Maybe they'll get caught 2 or 3 weeks after the fact. No, my first thought was with Kyle Shanahan, and one of the factors that goes against the Atlanta Falcons is he's also in the week off been trying to get a job. So is there a distraction there with your offensive coordinator, knowing that likely once the game is done, once the confetti's hit the floor, his next thought will be, okay, celebrate, drink if they win, and then go take the San Francisco job with the general manager that has no experience. So is that going to be a distraction?
What a weird spot that is, huh? Dude, I used to love the 49ers as a kid, and they're a complete dumpster fire right now.
I don't know of a smart organization out there that would hire a TV guy to come run their organization. Would you know of an organization do that?
Has that been done before?
Not by anybody smart.
No, not at all. What would the fan base have to live through for that to even occur? I mean, it's just got to be like a living hell, right?
Exactly.
Like 10 years of just hell.
No experience. I wonder what people would think of that. No experience running a team.
Did you even know John Lynch wanted to be a general manager?
Did you hear the story?
I had no idea.
Did you hear the story? He basically, if I was a guy running, the San Francisco 49ers had an open, interview process. They had 9 candidates that they were interested in. They narrowed it down to 4. They got a couple guys to do a round of 2 interviews. Okay? Was any of them John Lynch? No. He comes in and goes, wait a minute. He sits back and goes, I think I know what's going on here. They're really targeting Shanahan. I had a relationship with the Shanahan. I have a relationship with this. I could probably get in there. So he just threw his name in the hat and said, hey, he gave the organization a call and in a bold move said, hey, I think I might want to do this. And they said, you know what? This could be a good marriage between, John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan. And that's how it came in. He came in basically at the tail end and got the job. So if I was like...
Sounds like an absolute dumpster fire waiting to happen.
I think it could be a good idea because here's the thing. This is not the Detroit Lions. This is not Matt Millen. They're going to surround him with a bunch of people that can handle it. And Kyle Shanahan, remember, Shanahan is coaching royalty coming from Mike Shanahan. So he's now regarded as the top offensive coordinator, top offensive mind. They not only gave him a 1-year deal, a 2-year deal, 3-year deal,
6 years.
years for John Lynch, and potentially 6 years for Kyle Shanahan. So everybody knows this is the team, and they're going to try their absolute best to put together a system. Now, do they make a trade for the New England backup? Maybe. Do they go out there and draft a quarterback? Potentially. They know their prime target is get us a quarterback that we believe in. That's the most important move. Once you get a quarterback, then you have a better opportunity. Because if Matt Millen had Matthew Stafford, I don't think it would have been as bad. It would have been 15 years before he was fired. So if they find the right quarterback, you're ahead of the game.
Perhaps. I don't know, man.
They had receivers. They just didn't have nobody to throw it to them.
That's all they did was draft receivers. I don't know. I just don't see it necessarily working out. I guess my bigger question for you, though, is have you ever had a moment where you pulled a Kyle Shanahan and you totally misplaced something super important? Because thinking back on it, there were a couple times, like, I was super forgetful as a child. Like, I would leave my wallet everywhere. Like, I had this sweet Batman Velcro wallet that I would just leave any place and every place. I would go to a lot of Tigers games as a kid, and I would either leave it up at the counter or I would go use the bathroom and it'd fall out of my pocket. I lost like 3 baseball mitts at Old Tiger Stadium because I would just like take my baseball mitt with me and I'd use it I'd take it to the bathroom with me and I'd set it up and on the urinal, and then when I'd be done, I'd sit there and walk away and I'd come back an hour later like, oh crap, where's my mitt? And it'd be totally gone. So I mean, I've lost my wallet, my baseball mitt. Another time at a Tigers game, more recently, I lost my car key. Like my actual, like I have a key fob. I totally lost that. I don't know how you lose something that's basically an inch by an inch and a half or a half an inch and you just misplaced that. Totally lost that. Thank God I was able to get to my house and get my other, backup key. Otherwise I'd not be able to drive my car or I'd have to go pay a lot of money to get something new. So yeah, dude, I'm totally forgetful and I lose everything.
I'm in the exact same boat, bro. I forget a lot of things. I used to have a wallet. I don't anymore. I just put a bunch of credit cards and cash in a rubber band and keep it in my pocket. I try to keep things in pockets now a little bit more. And what I do, I just try to find avenues of putting things where I know roughly they can be replicated and found. And then the best thing is now with phones is I just text my wife everything. Like, hon, I put this there. Hon, I put this there. And she's like, why do you keep texting me this nonsense? Because I'll go on to something else and I'll be like, hey, where'd I put this? So the biggest thing that I think I've lost is I lost a whole set of keys on a chain. They had the house key, they had car keys, they had an office key. So I've lost it, and maybe I threw it away in the garage trying to do some spring cleaning. But yeah, when you get older and you got a lot of things going on in your mind, organization is one of the top things you got to stay with. And it's just hard when you have a lot of things. And let's look at this office. There's so much stuff here that if you try to take account of what's there, Starbucks cups, radios, computers, papers, there's just stuff everywhere. But the way I describe it to people is I'm organized in the most disorganized way possible, where I kind of know where everything is, but it's disorganized. So that's just kind of how I roll. Receipts and folders, it's just finding where the stuff is. And I think I just need really, in essence, to be a little bit more organized in 2017 if I was going to make a personal goal.
Organized chaos. That's kind of how you run.
Organized chaos. That's how I roll.
All right, man. Well, what do you think the Pats got to do?
If he would have lost it and you have it, do you go maybe potentially make some money on it? If you have the offensive plays, maybe kind of scan a couple and give it to a friend and maybe have it leak somewhere.
Oh, I'm totally looking through that thing. I'm taking pictures of all of it for sure.
You think you looked through it, or he was like quickly thinking to give it back?
I don't know. The way ESPN reported the story, they sat there and heaped all kinds of praise on USA Today reporter and sports reporter Jared Bell, who does a lot of work with ESPN. They said that he was the one who realized what it was and was like, oh, hey, man, you need to go turn that back in because that's not your backpack. But I know if it was me and you, we're sitting there, we're cracking that thing open. We're looking through all of it because we're going to sit there and try to digest as much of that playbook as possible before we go and turn that back in.
Oh, yeah, snapping pictures, maybe potentially go and listen. You go to you, fifth hand. Make sure this ends up with the Patriots, and I want to check in the neighborhood of like $75,000.
See, I don't know if I'm going that far, but I'm definitely taking pictures of it. And you know what? What I'd probably try to do is I try to scheme some money out of the guys when I'm watching the game. You'd see a formation come up, I'd pause the TV, and I'd be like, look, this is how I think this play is going to go, and I think this is who I think the ball's going to go to. And then I'd bet like $5, and I'd do that probably, 15, 20 times throughout the evening, and just sit there and pull in a couple dollars here and there from everybody.
So this year, what do you got going on for the Super Bowl? What are you doing?
It is my mom's birthday.
The day of?
Yes. This is another year where the Super Bowl falls on her birthday. So what we are doing, and hopefully she doesn't listen to this podcast, otherwise she's going to figure it all out. We're going to throw her a little party, and it's going to invite some of her closest friends over, some some of our family over and just kind of keep it real low key, real small, and watch the Super Bowl. I'll be running squares in probably a 50-50 raffle for it all, and celebrate my mom's birthday. That's pretty much it, man.
Yeah, I've been presented with a dilemma probably for the first time in a long time. So usually I love the festivities with the family at a house. You know, the ladies prepare some dips, you know, some sodas, some pops, some alcohol. You know, the kids are running around making noise and things like that. The novices join together with the experts. We do squares. But this year, the brother-in-law decided to go to a public place. And I'm like, oh, I really don't want to go out for the Super Bowl.
It's usually not any good, man, because you can't hear the game and it's hard to pay attention to it all.
Yeah, so it's more about conversation and smoking hookah and doing things with the boys. So the kids aren't around, and I'll be coming after a 13-hour day on Saturday. This week shaped up to be really busy Friday and Saturday. Going to the Pistons game on Friday night after a slower day on Friday. But Saturday, I'm working from like 9 to 9 almost with clients. So I'm coming off a 13-hour day. I just don't really want to go out in public. So I think I'm probably going to send out the text later on and just say, listen, I'm not probably interested in going out. Just hang out at home because the little one has something going on with her preschool in the morning. Get home maybe around 12:01, get in the PJs, and just watch the pregame festivities and just stay at home. I think that's probably what's the best is just maybe grill up some food and just keep it low-key this year. This might be the first time I ever watch it at home with just the wife.
Just relaxing and watching usually at home is the best. I mean, we were trying to figure out what we're going to do for my mom. My sister's like, well, maybe we can go out someplace. And I'm like, it's the Super Bowl. Like, it's usually not good to go out because you can't hear the game. People who want to watch the game can't necessarily enjoy the game. People who want to watch the commercials can't necessarily watch the commercials. On top of it, good luck trying to get in someplace that's not, where you're not sitting on top of each other. So I was like, it's best to do it at home if and at all possible.
Yeah, I think that's the best thing to do, and I'll look to have a good time with it. And for this game, for me, I'm not really invested. I want to see a good football game. I like the food. I like the commercials. I like the circumstances around the game, the festivities and stuff like that. I'll see, how the halftime performance ranks out. But the game in and of itself, yeah, maybe I'll pay attention to the squares and things like that. But more importantly for me is I like the talk of everybody rallying and wanting the Super Bowl to be a holiday and have Monday off because that would be great. For me, I'm not going to work till later in the day on Monday. So you have an opportunity to kind of recap the Super Bowl, relax a little bit. Maybe if you drink too much, an opportunity to not be hungover anymore. So it'd be one of those things where I think that'd be cool if it was a national holiday. But
I'll be up early in the morning on Monday.
You'll be at work at 5 a.m.?
5 a.m.
Ugh.
Bright and squirrely. So what do you think the Pats got to do to win this game?
Oh, man, so tough. When we were planning the podcast and we were looking at trying to plan it out, I'm like, wow, I'm going both ways here. I could see a lot of scenarios where the Patriots win and a lot of scenarios where the Falcons win. But what the Patriots have to do is limit turnovers. They have to spread the ball around. And what they got to do is they got to score. And we know that Atlanta's going to be looking to try to get into the 30s because they're undefeated this season when they've gotten to 30 points. So they're going to be trying their absolute best to keep up with the Falcons. And what I think they need to do is, the offense probably is going to take care of itself. They're going to be able to do some things. I think most importantly is that defense has to make a statement. They got to be able to stop drives. They got to be able to limit Julio Jones, limit that running game, and basically. So you remember all the hype regarding Denver when they got to the Super Bowl, and the first play of the game was a safety, and Seattle just bum rushed them. I really feel like if New England can come out there and get some stops early, can put a lot of pressure on Matt Ryan, because I really believe if New England can come out to a lead, it might be tough for the Falcons to come back. If the Falcons get out to a lead, it's going to be probably the same challenge for New England to keep up. So if they can get a lead, and if New England can play well on defense, I really believe they got a strong chance to put some pressure on the Falcons because they haven't been there in the spotlight in a game where everything's on the line. So defensively, I think the Patriots have to do a lot of things well to keep this a respectable game.
I think you're on the right path here. Do you remember how I told you that double teaming Julio Jones would be a little bit of a mistake? And the reason I say that is the major goal of this defense for New England is to contain that dynamic duo at running back. Every game that Atlanta has lost this season, the lead running back has been held to less than 60 yards rushing, and that's usually Devonta Freeman. So if you can contain the running backs, you're going to set yourself up for a much better opportunity to win the game because you're going to keep the ball in Matt Ryan's hand. So if you keep the ball in Matt Ryan's hand, you're going to force him to hold on to it, and then you can hit him. And the more and more you hit him, that'll turn into safeties, or that'll turn into sacks, that'll turn into fumbles, that'll turn into errant passes, and you'll force them to turn the ball over. On top of that, you're going to force him to sit there and basically target Julio Jones because that's the best wide receiver they have. You sit there, you match up with Devin McCourty on Julio Jones. I like that matchup. I think it's going to be good. Look, Julio Jones is probably the best wide receiver in all of the NFL right now, but I would take my chances with that. On top of that, on the offensive side of the ball, New England's got to get LeGarrette Blount going early. The more and more you control the ball, the more and more you keep that high-paced, high-octane offense off the field, the better it is for you as a New England Patriot. On top of it, once you get in the red zone, you got to be able to capitalize and come away with touchdowns, not field goals. You got to remember, Atlanta is the 7th best offense all time. That's the numbers that they put up this year. Scary numbers, like ridiculous numbers, just scoring points every time you turn it around. So you got to be able to capitalize when you get in the red zone. You got to take advantage of that, and you can't come away with field goals. You got to put 7s on the board and not 3s. That's how New England's got to go into this game and attack it. I don't think if you double team Julio Jones, you're going to sit there and you're going to leave too much space open for those running backs. And look, when Matt Ryan gets in trouble, when he gets flushed from the pocket, all he ever does is just dump it off to his running back. And his running backs are so good that they can sit there and pick up anywhere from 5 to 15 to 25 yards and scamper downfield. And usually it results in an ensuing touchdown. It's kind of what happens. On the flip side, for Atlanta to win this game, they're going to have to stymie the run game of New England. Going to have to keep them in check. Whether it be LeGarrette Blount or any other running back that they have, you got to sit there and you're going to have to stop them. You're going to have to force Tom Brady to throw a couple interceptions, maybe 1, maybe 2. If you can turn Tom Brady over, get the ball in some favorable field position, like we said, that offense has been so good this year. You can march down the field and you can score points. On top of it, if you get Freeman, Jones, and Coleman going early, you get those guys in a little bit of a repetition, get them in a little bit of a routine, and you kind of get them feeling good about themselves early and often. I think you got a much better shot if you're an Atlanta Falcons fan.
Okay, so now turning our attention to what the Falcons got to do. And you realize, okay, that's why coaching is so important. That's why when the Detroit Lions, the team that we love to talk about, when they have an opportunity to go out there and get a coach, what do we say? Go out there and pilfer a team like Seattle. Go out there and pilfer teams that are successful like New England. That's why the rumors are speculating and getting hotter that Josh McDaniels is going to sit tight and just wait for Caldwell to get blown out and he'd probably be the next guy. But in essence,
Don't want him. Matt Patricia. If I'm taking 1 or 2 of them, taking Matt Patricia.
But in essence, what did the Atlanta Falcons do? They went out there and they said, okay, we can go out there and get a guy from Seattle, an organization that's been built and done pretty well. So all you got to do if you want to look at what the Falcons are going to do defensively, go out there and kind of look a couple years back to what Dan Quinn's defense was able to do to Tom Brady. You know they're coming. So the key for me is sack Tom Brady. I know it's going to be super tough because it's like a 3-step drop and boom, he's going to try and target his receivers and get to the hot receivers quickly. But I do believe that Tom Brady can be bullied and Tom Brady can be rushed and pressured. And what happens when there's a ferocious pressure? You have less time to throw the ball, less time to read the defenses, turnovers may happen, drives may stall, and you have an opportunity to win the game. That's why the early pick, just when the matchup was announced, was to New England because of Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. But as the week progresses, now into the second week of looking at who has the better team, who has the better players at key positions, I'm favoring the Falcons in this. I think that's why they're a 5-4 favorite betting-wise. In my opinion, I think that Dan Quinn's going to have a defense ready to go. They're going to pin their ears back, and they're going to destroy Tom Brady and try their absolute best to silence all this because what's all the talk been about? Tom Brady. His legacy. What's he going to do when he stands there at the podium? What's he going to do in this situation? Is he the best player in football history? Very little talk about what really Atlanta's been able to do. And you and I are geekniks. We're looking at everything. We're looking at, what did they do in this situation? What did they do versus, that team and that team? So we looked at it, and I believe the better players are Atlanta's side. So that defense has got to go out there, pin their ears back, and destroy Tom Brady. And their number one goal offensively, get to 30 points. If a team gets to 30, the first team that gets there will probably win the game. So my overall prediction will be the Atlanta Falcons 35 and the New England Patriots 31.
Interesting.
Falcons win the Super Bowl, baby.
I think we're kind of right on the same page with first the 30 will probably win this game, but I've got New England winning 34-31, and I think the big difference is going to be the fact that New England's been there time and time again, and they generally come away with the W. This team knows what they have to do, when they have to do it. Look, Atlanta has had some adversity this year, but there's no adversity like being down or behind in the Super Bowl. And New England has found themselves down and behind in the Super Bowl time and time again. And you know what? They always rise above it and they always come out ahead. On top of that, generally every Super Bowl that New England ever plays in is an extremely close game, and it usually comes down to either a last-second heroic stop or it comes down to a last-second field goal. That's why I'm picking 34-31 for New England to win this game.
Ooh, okay. No spreads, nothing like that. Quick Subway bet, 6-inch? 6-inch Subway Club of the Day or whatever it is, the 350 sandwich?
Sure, whatever you want to do.
Okay, so whatever the sub of the day is. So the limit will be our big bet, $3.50. I take the Falcons, man, all day. I just think that they got the better players. Will they be able to withstand the heat? Dan Quinn's got the experience. I do believe he's going to be able to parlay that to his squad. And you got Matt Ryan, who's a serviceable quarterback. They got a solid defense, a good scoring defense as well. So I like Atlanta.
Matt Ryan is better than serviceable, and you're absolutely right. They do have the talent. They've got a all-star cast on that team. I just think experience wins out this time around.
So when the next coaching search happens for the Detroit Lions, 3 teams you got to look at. Go find a coach from Green Bay. Go find a coach from New England. Go find a coach from Seattle. Period. And go handle your business. Man, Dan Quinn fits the part. I would have loved to have him. It would have been nice if he was.
It would, yeah.
It would have been nice to have him. Let's take our first and only timeout of this podcast. We'll come back and we'll talk about the Red Wings and some wrestling talk to end the podcast here on the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Doc and Jock here for Fanatic U. If you're looking for some sweet sports swag and you love your Detroit teams, and I mean you really love your Detroit teams, you got to check out fanaticu.com and get the coolest gear out there and rock your Red Wing shirt, rock your Lions shirt, rock your Piston apparel. Wear it till the wheels fall off. Michigan State, you know what? They got it too. Check out Fanatic U. They have 6 locations all over Metro Detroit. Check them out, fanaticu.com.
Talking Red Wings here on the Doc and Jock podcast. Coming after the All-Star break, the Red Wings laid a dud versus the Devils. But before we talk about all that, the issues that our team that plays hockey at the Joe Louis Arena has, did you watch any of the All-Star festivities? For me, wasn't into it. I just know that Tortorella had some issues and was replaced by Wayne Gretzky. That's about all the news that I kind of absorbed for over the weekend.
Good old Wayno and Paul Coffey, and they were actually coaching to win that game, which was fun and interesting all at the same time. But yeah, absolutely, man. I love NHL All-Star Weekend. I really like the way that they've done different things. Now they've kind of changed the format up. I really like the new format. I think it's interesting. I think it's a lot of fun. Look, it's 3-on-3 hockey at its very, very best. So you got guys racing up and down the ice. It's a lot of odd man rushes. It's a lot of breakaways. I think it's a lot of fun. Probably the best highlight of the entire weekend, because I watched it all from start to finish, was probably Friday night when they sat there and they introduced the NHL top 100 players to ever play the game. So they broke.
Where was Franz Nielsen on that list? 74?
He wasn't on that list at all.
What?
So they broke it up by decade, right? There's basically like 4 guys who were like before 1950. And they rolled into the 60s, the 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s. And surprisingly, or maybe not surprisingly, 3 Chicago players that play right now are for the 2010 year. So you've got Kane, Taves, and Duncan Keith. But, dude, it was really interesting. And every time I get to see Steve Yzerman, I get super hyped. Basically, that 2002 team, when you watch the NHL top 100 players, you realize just how special it was because there were so many Hall of Famers on that team. It will never be duplicated. The closest you're probably going to get is whatever you get with the Chicago Blackhawks that are playing right now. There were so many guys from that team that were in the top 100. It was incredible. Absolutely incredible. So I enjoyed it, man. I thought this year's NHL All-Star Game was a lot of fun. The wife watched. She enjoyed the skills competition. I think it was her first time actually sitting down and watching the entire skills competition. So she liked the fastest skater. I enjoyed the fastest skater. I always love the shootouts. Ryan Kessler brought his young son. I think he's like 7. He scored a goal on Carey Price. So it was interesting, man. It was a good deal.
Yeah, the other tidbits I heard was Justin Bieber got his face rammed into the glass, I think, in a celebrity game.
Go check out my Twitter. You'll see all the pictures. I sat there and retweeted them. It's awesome. Absolutely. Chris Pronger annihilated him. Didn't really crush him, but pinned him up against the board. Something special.
And the other tidbit that I think I saw was Dylan Larkin set the speed record, I believe, in 2016. And then I read that there was some kind of situation where someone might have broken it, but there was a technicality, and Dylan Larkin, as of today, still holds the record for the fastest skater.
So the way the time worked last season, Dylan Larkin didn't start from a standing stop, whereas Mike Gartner, who held the record previously, did, and Connor McDavid did. So they put up a time lapse with Dylan Larkin and Connor McDavid, and Connor McDavid beat Dylan Larkin in the time lapse. But the way the timing was done, and in the official record book, Dylan Larkin still holds the record.
Woo!
And it's basically by 0.02 of a second.
So this is all played out after the event, the speed competition?
Yes.
Oh, gotcha.
Yep.
That's where I saw it. People were like, "Oh, Dylan Larkin still gets to have the speed record." It's one of those things that's nice, for Dylan Larkin, especially with the tumultuous season that he had. But yeah, I'm just not into it. Too many gimmicky type things going on. I like what the NFL did. Just go back to AFC, NFC, have a couple side events going on with the drone drop and the dodgeball. Made it a little bit more interesting in terms of reading. But NHL All-Star Weekend, I was just ready for a break from the Red Wings. And then I got excited to watch them come back and play. What are they going to do versus the Devils? They should go out there, get the 2 points. The Devils are below you in the standings. I know you're tied with 49 points, but they don't seem to be a team that's doing all that great. So yeah, they should be energized. They should come back at home after the All-Star break and play a solid game. Is that what we got? Oh, hell no. They were down 2-0 within 7 minutes.
Look super rusty, right?
They looked like they weren't ready to go. And if you sat there and watched the game versus the Devils on Tuesday, I give you credit. Many people turned it off and were tweeting like, hey, I got to watch something else. I got to go to Netflix. I got to go watch what's going on with Donald Trump and whatever, job he's trying to pull off over there at the White House. But watching the Red Wings, and when you look at it, you go, wow, this is a situation where this team is actually getting worse as the season goes on. You had an opportunity in that game. You did fight back, but you get a 5-on-3. You have a power play now, and we're well into January, February in the season. You still haven't figured out how to execute a power play properly. Hell, if you can't get the puck in the zone, if you can't make the proper passes, if you can't shoot the puck, how do you expect to score? I'm just waiting for them to just load up and just put like Zetterberg, Vanek, Nielsen, Green, all on one line, create a super power play line, and let it rip. But when you get a 5-on-3, and then subsequently the 5-on-4 when you don't score, and you don't take any shots, it was horrible to read, horrible to watch, because that was the end of the game, because that was the last portion of the game that I was able to stomach as I was flipping the channels. It was just devastating. It's something where, how does it take this long to fix a power play? In essence, you're saying, we can't fix it. It's broken. It's a system that will never work, and it's causing this team to lose points. And now, as we're recording this, the Red Wings are at the bottom of the Eastern Conference. This is it. This is bottoming out.
Do you think this is more of an issue with the talent on the team not being there, or do you think it's more of a coaching issue? Because when you're talking about fixing a power play, that would scream head coach to me. But if he doesn't have the pieces, he can't put the players in the right spot. And if you can't put the pieces in the right spot, then that screams that it's the general manager's fault. Maybe the general manager should be fired. And at this point in the season, looking at where we're at, it might be time just to sit there and wave the white flag, say goodbye to the streak, and prepare for an ultimate sell-off at the trade deadline day on February 28th. And I've come to terms with it, and I've been able to wrap my mind around it, and I've been one of the people who has held staunchly against it. I didn't want to do the sell-off. I wanted the streak to continue, but not because of the streak. I wanted them to get into the playoffs, because I believe if you get in the playoffs and a goalie gets hot, a team can go a long way, whether you have a lot of talent up front or not. But after watching the way Toronto totally decimated the Wings, and Toronto's a very young team, an absolutely young team. You got a guy like a Mitch Marner, you got Austin Matthews. You've got young players that are fast, that are quick, that can just move in tight spaces. And all these guys are just high-end draft picks. After watching them totally decimate the Red Wings, I've come to terms that there now has to be a facelift for this team. And if that means that you've got to lose this season, you've got to lose next season, and you probably have to lose the season after that to get some high draft picks, to infuse some new talent, some young talent in here, I'm okay with it. And even if that means that you have to sell off pieces like a Dylan Larkin, because I'm going to be honest with you guys, Dylan Larkin's not really doing it right now. He really isn't. What is he? He came on hot last year, the beginning of last year, and then he fizzled out towards the end of the year, and he's basically been fizzling ever since. I don't think Dylan Larkin's this great player. I don't think he's your Austin Matthews, your Mitch Marner. I don't think he's any of those guys. I don't think he's your Connor McDavid. I don't think he's good enough. He's not in that class of player. He's a guy who's maybe that next tier or two down. Anthony Mantha. I like Anthony Mantha. Big body. He can score, can win battles along the corner. He's getting more and more confident the more and more he plays. But still, There's some lackadaisicalness there. He takes plays off, doesn't do a lot of things the right way. And if somebody's willing to give you a gangbuster deal for him, I'm willing to listen and I'm willing to trade him away. Same thing with Athanasiou. Talk about fast guys. Fast speed wins in the new NHL. And if you're willing to give me something for a guy who is lightning quick and can do some things with the puck now and again, I'm okay with it. Because I'm ready to blow this entire thing up, ready to blow it all up and start over, start from scratch. When the expansion draft rolls around and there are players that have to be protected and players that aren't protected, my hope is that guys like Henrik Zetterberg are unprotected. My hope is that he gets picked up by the Las Vegas Knights. He gets to go away. That way you get to remove that awful contract from your books, giving you some more money to play with. On top of that, you get rid of some of that dead weight. This is a player who has, I think, like 4 years left on his contract, and he might only play 2 of those. You know, and look, I know he's your leading scorer right now, and he's got a ton of points for you. But that being said, very similar to the whole Stephen Weiss deal. You remember Stephen Weiss when you brought him over from Florida and how he was a huge goal scorer and a huge point getter over in Florida? You put him on this team, and he did nothing for you. When you're on a bad team, somebody's got to score your points. That's Henrik Zetterberg right now. You're on a bad team, somebody's got to score your points. It's Z because he pulls in 20-some-odd minutes a night on ice time. So I'm ready to start all over. I'm ready to say goodbye to the streak. I'm ready to say goodbye to all of it. And whether that means Ken Holland's got to go because I really don't want him around anymore. And if he's got to take Blashill with him, I'm fine with that too. The thing is, I'm not necessarily sold that this is all Blashill's fault. I know a lot of people, I sit there, I read all the posts on Twitter, and everybody just crushes Blashill for his line pairings, what he's doing out there with certain guys. Why does this guy get more time than this guy? He's just crushing them. It's fine, I get it. I understand where the frustration comes from, but that being said, you got to realize what he's working with, and you got to realize what he's dealing with. He's trying to basically take chicken crap and make chicken salad out of it, and it's not even close to being chicken salad. It's absolute garbage is what it is. Blow it all up, man. Trade them all away. Trade all your pieces away. You've got nothing as far as defense. You've got a couple forwards that look promising, right? With a Dylan Larkin, Athanasiou, and an Anthony Mantha. You got 3 young guys who look promising, and you'd like to build around those guys. But in the end, I don't know if their payoff is going to be worth it. So you know what? You trade them away. If you get a high-end draft pick this year, this year's draft isn't anything near what the last 3 years have been in the NHL, but you trade those guys away, you get some high-end draft picks maybe for next year even. Do it. Do it. What do you got to lose? You get a high-end prospect maybe, and I don't really like taking on prospects. I'd much rather have a draft pick than a prospect, but whatever you got to do, let's do it because you don't have a Connor McDavid coming. You don't have an Austin Matthews coming. You don't have a Mitch Marner coming. You don't have any of these guys coming in your pipeline. They're not there. What you're looking at right now, that's what you got. Anthony Mantha was supposed to be your Austin Matthews. He's not. Dylan Larkin was supposed to be your Connor McDavid. He's not. You know? Your Mitch Marner was supposed to be Athanasiou. Kind of, sort of, but not really. He's nowhere even close. You've got nothing. You have absolutely nothing in your minor league system that's going to compare with these other teams. So blow it up, lose the streak, and if that means you got to get rid of the general manager and the head coach, bye-bye.
Tatar, Nyquist, Vanek, all probably going to be traded.
Trade them all.
Did Riley Sheehan score a goal? Oh, no, he didn't. Probably the longest scoreless streak in the NHL. Haven't checked officially, but he's still going out there, and it just seems like Jeff Blashill hasn't been able to get the same kind of magic that Babcock was able to from these guys. So it's a combination. I mean, really it is. There's not enough talent. The power play is ranked last in the entire NHL. You're not playing well. You can see a little bit of effort, some effort plays where they're trying to get back on defense. It doesn't seem like they're going full bore. You see a situation where Caro comes up and he's given up a couple bad goals now in the last couple of games, and you go, wow, this is a team right now that Franz Nielsen came out and said, hey, we got a stretch of games here in the next 10 that we got to get, we got to put together a streak here to get some points. Unfortunately, I don't see it. I don't see the Red Wings being capable of putting together a 3, 4, 5, 6 game streak where they get 2 points night in, night out. The best they can do is try to get a point a night, but if you do that, you're not going to be able to jump other teams. So they don't have a winning team. They don't have a team that's capable of putting together a streak. So I see no scenario in which they buy and add to this team. No way, no how. All you'd be getting is somebody else's problem, and you'd be giving up talent. So Maybe trade Vanek, obviously, as the piece that you could probably get the most for, and then just start to build through the draft and let it rip. And just play the young guys as much as you can. Bring up a couple more guys from the minors and just let it bottom out and see if you can get the highest draft pick that you can get. But I don't see a scenario, and you're absolutely right. It has bottomed out. We should all be prepared that this team isn't really good enough to make the postseason, and I really don't want them to make the postseason because all I see is a 4-game sweep is what I see. I don't see a team that can score the puck. They literally have scored 4 goals on the power play on the road. 11% power play efficiency in the entire year. 11%. You get a 5-on-3, you should score. That's an automatic goal. You think 5-on-3 for over a minute, and you're passing the puck back and forth, back and forth. This is not a good enough team, and it's a combination of bad coaching, and the team is not good enough at this point in time to put together a run. And it's sad. It's coming together now slowly as each game progresses. We're getting closer and closer. I think around 30 games left that this season is going to be a season where the streak is ended. It's done.
It's absolutely over, and you're right. Their power play has killed them all year, but the lack of goal scoring isn't helping when you're sit there and you're on even strength. On top of it, you're right. They've got some pieces that other guys may be interested in, right? A Thomas Vanek, you can get him on a cheap 1-year deal. Why not? Mike Green, he's been able to score quite a few goals for the defense. He's your leading goal scorer on defense. He's probably been their best defenseman all year. Trade him away. Guys like a Yurko, if somebody wants to take a chance on him, somebody wants to sit there and take a chance on a Tatar or a Nyquist. I mean, these are all guys that when they first came on, they were scoring 20-plus goals a year, and it's just been a steady decline ever since. So if you can package those guys, trade them away. You can get one player who might be young and might project to something great. Sure, why not? You know, you've got to do something. There has to be some type of a shuffle that has to come into play right now, whether it be firing a head coach. I mean, you just seen St. Louis do it. They just fired Ken Hitchcock. You know, whether it be blowing out the general manager, because I don't think Ken Holland has a real grasp on what's been going on in the NHL for probably the last 3 years. I don't know. I mean, once Jim Neal left, I think really and truly the brains of the operation kind of walked out the door. The last little bit of the brains of the operation walked out the door. I think it was more of a Jimmy Devellano, Jim Neal brain trust, and Ken Holland took all the blame and took all the credit, and I don't think that was necessarily the case. I think it was those two guys who were really the ones taking chances on players and doing a lot of the nitty-gritty and the grunt work, really figuring things out for this team to really put them in positions to win Stanley Cups and make playoff runs. I don't think you have that anymore. So blow it up. Get somebody else in here. I don't care who at this point. Somebody else. There's got to be a shakeup of some sort. Miss the playoffs because it looks like it's going to happen. You're in dead last in the NHL right now. In the NHL. There are teams that are way ahead of you. And yeah, Franz Nielsen came out and said, hey, we've got a stretch of games where we've got to start putting some wins together. Even if you sat there and you won 7 out of your next 10 games, that will boost you. And that's just straight up winning, not going to anything extra. It's just wins. It's going to put you at 63 points. It's still not enough because you're on the outside still looking in. You know, I mean, unless every other team that you're playing goes on losing streaks, you're still not going to have enough. You'll still be on the outside looking in. It's time to just blow it up. Start putting feelers out there, calling teams, saying, hey, what do you want? What do you want? Because we've got guys for sale.
Speaking of not giving us what we want, WWE Royal Rumble. Wow. I sat through and I watched it. Big wrestling fan. WWE Network, in my opinion, best value out there that you can get. $9.99 a month. Tuned in to the Royal Rumble. I was excited. Was hearing the rumors of maybe a Stone Cold would show up, being that it was in Texas. Maybe rumors of Finn Balor. Maybe rumors of a debut of Samoa Joe. So you watch the card and you go, wow. Now I'm a big AJ Styles fan. So hands down, if you want to fast forward to the match of the night, it was hands down AJ Styles versus John Cena. Totally disagree with the outcome of that match.
Absolutely.
I understand exactly what they're doing, and we'll talk about it. Then you get to the Rumble, which everybody wants to see. Everybody wants to see that 30-man Royal Rumble.
It's the main event, man.
50,000 people, more than 1.5 million subscribers probably tuned in to see who's going to come up, who's going to be the surprise. And the surprise is Dillinger at number 10, an NXT guy. Are you serious? No,
he was the best part of the Royal Rumble.
I didn't know who that guy was because I don't really follow NXT.
And that's the issue. A lot of guys don't follow NXT. I knew who he was, so when he popped out at 10, he's the perfect 10. That's his gimmick in NXT. I totally popped for him. I was like, oh, it's High Jill. Everybody I was watching it with, they were like, who?
Yeah, exactly.
And I was like, he's an NXT guy. He's been in NXT for like 6 years. So he finally got a little bit of a call up, and it looks like he's going to go right back down. So it was whatever.
So exactly. Now you're watching, you're like, okay, you're waiting to see who's going to be the surprise entrant other than an NXT guy. Okay, fine, that's the guy. I would rather be Samoa Joe. You're waiting in the 20s. Then you start doing the countdown like,
what about Mark Henry? You weren't surprised for Mark Henry? You know what the surprise was? Mark Henry's still alive.
Yes.
I thought he was dead. I was like, Mark Henry's alive? Had no clue.
Now, positively, though, they did set up a lot of great things when you had Mark Henry stare off with Braun Strowman. You had Goldberg and The Undertaker stare off. You had the, in-ring action between Goldberg and Brock Lesnar. I like that. I like the little stories that they told. But for me, I want to see the event.
What about Jericho laying on the ground on the outside for
it was great.
hours?
It was great. I liked the teases that they did for WrestleMania. But also at the same time, I'm a fan of the wrestling in the ring at the time. So you could have had Brock Lesnar maybe do a move on Goldberg, maybe one suplex, or you could have had The Undertaker actually throw a punch to Goldberg, but then they just teased it, and it was one of those things where, okay, now you're waiting, you're starting to do the countdown, oh, wait a minute, Brock hasn't come out, Goldberg hasn't come out, The Undertaker hasn't come out, and you're like, there's 4 left. All right, who's going to be in that coveted 30 spot? Okay, you wait, it's number 30, and it's counting down, and the best part is the countdown.
I was like, for sure, I was like, it's going to be Joe. It's going to be Joe. I was ready to mark out so hard for Samoa Joe.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And who is it? Roman Reigns, get the fuck out of here. No, that was terrible. He just wrestled.
I think every WWE fan who was watching had the same exact reaction. His music hits and we're all like, what? Like everybody stopped, looked at each other and was like, are you serious right now? It's Roman Reigns? Like he already wrestled tonight. You don't need to see him again. There was no need for him to come out at 30. There was none whatsoever. He had a fantastic match against Kevin Owens. And I thought for sure he was going to win the WWE Universal Galactic Star Wars Championship. Didn't happen. But he's your dude at 30? Like, look, Vince, we all know that you love Roman Reigns. We get it. You've been cramming him down our throats for years now. For years. All right? So you have him eliminate a fan favorite like The Undertaker so you can set that up for WrestleMania because you want Roman Reigns versus The Undertaker. This is a lose-lose for Roman Reigns. This is not going to help get him over in any way, any fashion, because there is only one suitable outcome here. Only one. And that's Undertaker, who is probably in his last WrestleMania because the guy can hardly move around because he needs a total hip replacement. So it'll probably be his final. The only suitable outcome is Undertaker pile driving Roman Reigns straight to hell. That is the only acceptable outcome. You can't go any other way. So if you have Roman Reigns beat Undertaker, right? Everybody's going to lose their mind. All the WWE fans are going to lose their shit because the one big mistake you've made in the last 30 some odd years is having Undertaker drop a match at WrestleMania and destroying his streak to Brock Lesnar? To who? Brock Lesnar? Captain Part-Time himself? The guy who's got basically 4 moves? Brock Lesnar is garbage. And I hate hearing fans talk about how they love Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar is absolute crap. He's can't talk on a mic. He's got a limited moveset, and he hardly shows up. And when he does show up, you know what he does? He bounces back and forth on his left foot to his right foot, from his left foot to his right foot, from his left foot to his right foot, from his left foot to his right foot, while Paul Heyman's over there in the corner. My client! Nobody cares about your client. This is a lose-lose if you're trying to get Roman Reigns over. This was such a it was kind of okay Royal Rumble. It was not so good at all. Honestly, there were matches that took place in this Royal Rumble that were solid. I enjoyed the Kevin Owens Roman Reigns match. I thought it was very good. I didn't necessarily understand why Braun Strowman came out and annihilated Roman Reigns, but I get it because they set up a storyline, they dropped some seedlings, and then they followed up with it on a Monday, and it all kind of made sense then. It didn't necessarily make sense that night, but you dropped seedlings along the way leading up to the Royal Rumble, and then you wrapped it all back around and gave me the package and gave me the present, and I was like, oh, okay, makes sense. The AJ Styles John Cena match, best match of the night. Incredible. Absolutely awesome. Neville winning. I thought that was important and needed to happen. All right? So there were some good things, but you had so many missed opportunities in this Royal Rumble. You had a chance for the Shield to possibly reform during the Kevin Owens-Roman Reigns match because it was a no disqualification match. And Kevin Owens was getting brass knuckles dropped from Chris Jericho high above in the birdcage all the way down. And then you had Braun Strowman come out. You could have had Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose come out and ran some type of interference, and all the fans would have lost their minds. And it would have been like a cherry on top for this match, and it would have been great. And it would have been a way to possibly get the title off of Kevin Owens. You could do it right then and there, and then you could set up some kind of match between Braun Strowman or something later on. You could have done something like that. The tag belts changing hands during the pre-show. Did you watch the pre-show?
I did.
I did not. I sat there, and the only reason I knew that the tag belts changed was because Bleacher Report on my phone told me so.
Yep.
That was it. I had no idea. And then Sasha Banks getting squashed by Nia Jax.
That was waste. That was dumb.
What are you doing? Sasha Banks is one of the top 4 women you have in your company. She's one of the best female wrestlers you have, and she puts on outstanding matches. Nia Jax? Seriously? Just because she's cousins with Roman Reigns and The Rock, you're going to sit there and give her a rocket attached to her ass to send her to the moon? She's not good. Again, it's another... Vince gets so enamored with the big star, with the big guy, or the big girl. She's huge. She's massive. Okay, I get it, right? She's basically, you want her to be your Brock Lesnar of the females. She's horrible on the mic, limited moveset, and she can't do anything. She doesn't sell anything well. She gets hit. She just kind of looks dumb. It's awful. Absolutely atrocious. And then on top of that, what was even more atrocious and more disrespectful, what I thought was probably the lowest point in the night, and I'm going to be honest with you. I'm a huge John Cena mark. I love John Cena. I know he's probably a horrible person in real life and he holds dudes down, and I get it. It's fine. All right? I'm a huge John Cena mark. John Cena's music hit. I sat there. I stood up. I did the whole thing with the hands above the head. I sat there. I danced around. I sing the song. Do-do-do, do-do-do. Yeah, the whole thing, right? I sit there. I do the run and slide up into onto the couch, like how he runs into the ring. I do the whole thing, right? John Cena beating AJ Styles.
Terrible.
After he cut one of the most brutal, razor-splitting, arduous promos against a guy, basically telling him, you are not even worthy to breathe the same air I breathe. And you keep AJ Styles on the sideline, just looking at him blinking. Just blinking. You can hear AJ Styles' eyelids blinking when John Cena was sitting there cutting him to pieces. That's his eyelids blinking at him. That was it. Showed zero respect for AJ Styles, the man who's been carrying your belt and been the best wrestler in your company for the last 6 months. You show him zero respect by making him lose to John Cena. On top of that, no respect for Cena either, because John Cena just became the 16-time world champion, tying a record of Ric Flair. And you barely mention it. Barely. No hype for it. No nothing. Absolutely zero. You could have kept the belt on Styles, had Cena lose. You could have set something up for what would eventually come in I'm assuming the Elimination Chamber, because you want Styles in the Elimination Chamber along with Cena, and Styles is supposed to be fighting Shane McMahon at WrestleMania. So you set something up for AJ Styles to lose the belt in the Elimination Chamber, thus creating the more tension between Shane O'Mac and AJ Styles to sit there and carry over his upsetness, his anger, everything at Shane O'Mac at WrestleMania so they can battle it out. You screwed up the storyline again, WWE. Screwed it up again. By the way, when John Cena won, I totally attitude adjusted my wife. Picked her up on my shoulders, and I just sat there and slammed her on my buddy's couch. That's what I did. So, again, 16-time champ. It was totally muted. It wasn't sold enough. I hated, I did not, going into that match, I was like, there's no way Styles loses. Styles lost. And it made no sense why he lost that. And coming to the Royal Rumble, one of the deepest WWE rosters we've had in a long time.
Hey, right.
One of the deepest. I thought for sure when Roman Reigns came out at 30, I was like, all right, I looked at my watch. I was like, this is going to go until at least 11. I was like, we can totally squeeze out another 10 more wrestlers. So the big pops are coming. They're coming. After Roman Reigns, it was basically done. You have Roman Reigns eliminate The Undertaker after Goldberg, Brock Lesnar, Undertaker, 3 of your big stars. And Big Show. You're like your 3 big guys. Like when I say big guys, I mean like these are the mammoth men of your company. All those guys were basically in the Royal Rumble for moments. Not even long enough to where you could be like, Oh, yeah, that was a great spot.
It's good work if you can get it, right? Making it probably thousands of dollars to show for 5 minutes of work.
I assume, but geez, they were out there for mere seconds, and then either they got squashed or they just fell out of the ring. It was the way the Rumble just ended up playing out. It was atrocious, absolutely atrocious. You could have put Joe in there at 30, had him come out, had him wreck the entire place, and you want to give it to Randy Orton? Go ahead. Give it to Randy Orton, because that's what we need to see again. We need to see Randy Orton winning another Royal Rumble, going on his way to WrestleMania. That's what we all signed up for here. It's what we all want to see. No thank you. On top of that, Monday comes around, and you get your debut of Samoa Joe. Thank God we finally get our debut of Samoa Joe.
Perfect timing, though. I loved it, the Triple H promo.
I thought it was good.
Perfect.
It was handled well. And it sets up for something really nice where he's going to take on Seth Rollins. Hiccup. There's a little bit of a bump in the road. While Samoa Joe was totally annihilating Seth Rollins, it comes out that he banged up his knee.
Samoa Joe got hurt?
No, Seth Rollins got hurt.
Did he?
Yeah.
I didn't hear that.
Yeah.
Oh.
So now Seth Rollins may be on the IR. Seth Rollins may be able to wrestle through it. Nobody's really sure. If you remember, Seth Rollins had reconstructive ACL surgery.
Oh,
so now what does this do for the storyline? What happens?
It could be storyline related, though, according to WrestleZone. I think it could be storyline related.
Again, you're going to bring Samoa Joe out, and you're going to have him annihilate Seth Rollins. The only likely answer here, because you're building Seth Rollins versus Triple H at WrestleMania, right? That's where you're going with this story. That's what's been going on now since, I think, August. The longest storyline ever. 6 months of building here. And the payoff's going to be like, ugh. You bring Samoa Joe in. Samoa Joe is a crusher. Samoa Joe is a wild man. He's a maniac. He's a destroyer.
And he destroyed. Yeah, I'm looking at WrestleZone. It is. He's in, Seth Rollins, according to WrestleZone.com, is in Alabama looking at his knee.
Yes.
Oh.
That sounds, you know who's in Alabama, right?
Dr. James Andrews.
That's right. So that sounds like it's a bad deal. But here's the thing. Samoa Joe is a destroyer. He's a crusher. He's just supposed to wreck worlds. Just annihilate guys. All right? And obviously he did against Seth Rollins. That being said, they're supposed to wrestle at Fastlane now, right? That's where we were going with this Seth Rollins Samoa Joe arc. The only acceptable answer for Seth Rollins to get to Triple H is he has to beat Samoa Joe. So you're going to bring Samoa Joe in, and you're not going to strap a rocket to his ass and send him to the moon and let him just crush guys along the way? What are we doing, WWE Creative? This is probably one of your biggest stars that you have on your roster, and you don't even realize it. That guy, along with AJ Styles, were the only two dudes who carried anything for TNA. Carried TNA through some of their darkest hours, because those were the two best guys they had on their roster, and every night, night in, night out, they sat there and put together compelling shows, cut great promos, did outstanding work in and out of the ring. Yet you're going to bring Samoa Joe in on a Monday night. You're going to have him beat up Seth Rollins so he can turn around and lose to him at a pay-per-view event in, 4 or 5 weeks? It's just like John Cena being a placeholder for his WWE Championship that he just won at the Royal Rumble, because he's going to end up losing it to Bray Wyatt in 2 weeks. So you give it to a guy, you make him the 16-time world champion just to be a place setter? What? Are you serious?
So needless to say, you're not happy with the direction of the company right now.
No! What the hell are we doing?
Yeah.
You've got stars. You've built people up. And you're just doing a bad job with all of it.
Yeah, I agree with everything that you've said. And I mean, literally, you basically encompassed everything that I would have said.
I feel bad. I just ranted for like 25 minutes.
No, that was awesome. That was perfect. I mean, I'm not going to add too much to it. But for me, yeah, the most disappointing aspect of it was I feel like you had an opportunity with the one star that you created, AJ Styles. You could have took him to that next level. And that's a guy that you could build a company around because of his wrestling style, the fact that he is over with the fans. The fact is he has the best moveset. He can tell a story with anybody. He can have a great wrestling match with anybody. And John Cena, I can understand you want him to get to that 16th title, but maybe you could have did it at the end of this year. He's going to get it. You knew it. But maybe you let AJ Styles have an 8 to 12 month reign because he can do it all. You could have him feud with so many other guys, Baron Corbin, the Wyatts, Randy Orton. You could take it a lot of different ways, but you got to understand at the time, John Cena had yet to beat AJ Styles, and you're not going to let AJ Styles be undefeated against John Cena. They're going to tell the story.
But you can build that story
longer,
something later on.
SummerSlam, potentially, yeah.
Yeah, let AJ Styles keep annihilating him, and then just let that be one of those stories that's on the back burner.
But when people talk about
you can take these guys in different directions, and then you can come back to it later on, where John Cena is so peeved off that the one guy he can't get over is AJ Styles, and you can have him beat him for the belt, like you said, at SummerSlam.
Unfortunately, the fact of the matter is, Vince, like you said earlier, he likes to have the road to WrestleMania be led by guys that he trusts.
He's
Randy
so out of
Orton,
touch, man.
Triple H, John Cena. And it is one of those things, though, that you got to realize it's a business and they got to sell the product. And I just don't think that at this point in time, they were ready to go with a AJ Styles all the way leading up to WrestleMania. They could have. They definitely could make money on him. But AJ Styles is going to be in other feuds and things like that. And it's one of those things where the belt doesn't need to make AJ Styles. AJ Styles makes the belt. So you can put him in other creative feuds that people would want to see. So I don't have no problem with that. But I think at this point in time, AJ Styles is a star. People know and they respect him. So you don't have to. I would say if you were going to have him lose, you could have had him lose to Wyatt, or you could have had him lose to Baron Corbin. I just think that you missed out an opportunity to elevate AJ Styles to the next level. But they didn't want to do that. Randy Orton winning it.
Oh, there's another guy I want to talk about, Baron Corbin. Let's talk about Baron Corbin real quick. Do you mind if I interrupt you? You can wrap up with your Randy Orton spiel.
No, I can do it real fast. Randy Orton, fine. I can understand the win. I don't think he's worthy of two-time champ. I think you could have. I think if you wanted to have an unknown, Bray Wyatt would have been the perfect winner. You could set that up and build a lot of stories and a lot of branches off of that. So Randy Orton winning, boring.
And you could have had, you know what? And to go off what you just said, you could have had Bray Wyatt, Randy Orton. It was Bray Wyatt, Randy Orton, and Roman Reigns in the ring all at the very end there, right? You could have had Randy Orton take out Roman Reigns, and then you could have had, just to show the mind control and how influential Bray Wyatt is, you could have just had him look at Randy Orton and had Randy Orton eliminate himself. And then at that point, you're just like, whoa, your mind is blown, right? Like, this guy is that deal, right? He's that deal. He just had Randy Orton eliminate himself for no good reason. Again, a missed opportunities by WWE Creative because it's atrocious. Absolutely awful. So, Baron Corbin, speaking of WWE and creative and being awful, why is this guy getting a push? Can somebody please explain it to me? Is it because he's big?
Young. Yes, that's what it is.
That's what it is. He's a big guy. Okay, great. So to fit the criteria for WWE to give you a push, you've got to be basically 6'3" and at least 215 pounds. That's the only way you're going to get a push in WWE. Because honestly, Baron Corbin physically does not do it for me, right? He's not jacked in any sort of way. He's just tall. And he's a little bit brawny, but that's about it. The guy's not really cut, not overly muscular. I think Neville's got more muscle on his little frame than Baron Corbin does on his entire body. On top of it, Baron Corbin's got a worse hairline than you and I both combined, okay? Do something with that, bro. Shave it off. It's okay. Stone Cold did it. Stone Cold had a receding hairline, and it was pretty bad. It was pretty bad. He even dyed it blonde, and it looks stupid. So you know what he did? Took a razor to it. Shave off your scraggly, stringy, awful-looking hair. Maybe it'll make you look a little bit tougher, because really you look like a giant puss bag to me. That's what you look like. You and your really bad tattoos all over your body and your neck. Awful. Blech. On top of it, you can't cut a promo, bro. You can't. The Miz is sitting there on SmackDown talking trash to you all night long, and he's just basically lobbing you softballs, and you're just mumbling into the mic. Speak, bro. Honestly, speak. Take the fingers out of your mouth and talk. Just say something, I don't know, slightly influential, maybe something that gets a little bit of a rise out of somebody, because The Miz is doing his best job to sit there and carry you through this segment where you sat there and interrupted a really nice match between Ambrose and Styles for no good reason, to go sit on the other end of the 9-man SmackDown announcing booth because, honestly, two guys can't get it done, so we're going to slap in David Otunga, who's atrocious, and Tom Phillips, who I actually really like a lot, and I think he should get a little bit more of a push, but it's whatever. Basically, Tom Phillips doesn't come into the second hour because I don't necessarily know why. Anyways, you just sit there and you just mumble into your microphone. Pull it out of your mouth, put it in front of your face, and say something intellectual, something that will set something up for later on. Because you just being not working, bro. Absolutely not working. On top of it, physically you're not over, your promos aren't over, and your movesets kind of makes me want to puke in my mouth.
That's the best way you can sum it up, is that they could do more. There was a lot of failed opportunities from the weekend. Now we got to wait and see what this Elimination Chamber is going to bring us. Definitely keep tuning in to Detroit Sports Podcast. Follow us on Twitter at Detroit Podcast. We definitely bring it. We watch wrestling. We know what's going on, and we watch during the event. So I like to see that the turnaround's quick for the Elimination Chamber to see where this goes to help further shape WrestleMania. But yeah, in terms of the direction, they obviously didn't please a lot of people with the Royal Rumble. I really felt like it was a C+ card. Had Roman Reigns won it, it would have been an F all the way around. But they saved it with having Randy Orton win it, someone that you could legitimately think about winning it and having him be set up. But I don't want to see Cena. If it's Cena and Randy Orton at WrestleMania, I probably won't watch that match.
No. Who wants to see that again? We've already seen that.
A lot of
We've already seen it. We know how that ends. We know how it plays out. I don't want to see that again. Nobody wants to see that again. If Roman Reigns would have won, though, they probably would have burned that building to the ground.
Yeah,
the
no
Alamo
way.
Dome would not be sitting today.
No doubt about it. Great podcast, sir. Thank you, everybody, for downloading, finding our project across the various platforms. You can find us on Stitcher, Podomatic, Podbay, iTunes, DetroitSportsPodcast.com. We greatly appreciate all the support. We'll see everybody next week on the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Go Wings, go Pistons, and Tigers and John Cena.
Fire, everybody.
This was locker room talk.
Second dick.
Sorry, Detroit. Didn't quite work out.
And all I can say is Detroit Sports Podcast scores.
I hear voices in my head. They counsel me. They understand. They talk to me. They talk to me. They tell me things that I will do. They show me